Apalagi acara yang akan dimulai. Yang tadi yang perlu demi
Tidak siap.
Gimana? Kayaknya ngeringas.
Iyalah.
Ben, ini kapan mulai? Belum. Udah pernah diatur belum? Belum. Video.
All right. I'll show you.
Yes, I know.
Hello, everyone. Saling dulu.
International Community is a biennial international scientific that is initiated and hosted by PPI Jerman, which is the Indonesian Student Association in Germany. It's a platform to act as an academic bridge between Indonesia and Germany. Iconic has always been facilitated by Indonesia's very own academic diaspora of students and researchers currently pursuing their student engagement, which I think you've probably met a number of them in this hall. And Iconic itself was first started in 2014, and since then has been continuously held every 2 years in various universities throughout Germany, bringing a theme that always relates to sustainability and environmental concerns. This year, continuing on the 5th iteration since its inception, Iconic brings about the subject of transformation for low carbon development as a topic for this year's event. And you might ask and wonder about why we should be concerned about such topic of low carbon development, and why should we familiarize ourselves with the adage of transformation for low carbon development. Well, it all starts when we went back time to the genesis of modern industry. At that point, our current modern life form, the Industrial Revolution, for some time we realized that unfortunately, such rapid developments in diverse fields and ultimately our quality of life has great environmental costs. So such progress and path has uncovered that the traditional trajectory of development and economic development is rooted in environmental exploitation. That unfortunately exposes us to more and more environmental damage and catastrophes. So now, as the effects of climate change further intensifies, pressure to be more sustainable takes center stage. For many developing countries, like for instance Indonesia, right now they face a challenging predicament where, just like any other nation economies, are demanded to decarbonize across all sectors without somehow trading off their economic growth, which is obviously a very challenging proposition. So that's what is going to be our focus for the upcoming few days. And so a little bit of a picture, you might also wonder what is up with the cute little green dinosaurs scattered throughout the venue of Iconic. So that is our friendly mascot, dinosaur mascot for this year's Iconic 2024. He's here to remind us that if not vigilant and we don't pay attention to climate change and take proper mitigation measures, well, we might end up like him, extinct. So of course, this is kind of a daunting prospect, but not to worry, we're all here to try to focus. Throughout the 2 days in Great. So first of all, before I continue further to some opening remarks from some of the figures, I'd like to extend our endless gratitude to our dear sponsors that have helped make Iconic 2024 a reality. So first of all, I'd like to say thanks to the Center of Biodiversity and Sustainable Land Use, CBL, TRIO, Kualitas Sertifikasi Indonesia, Astra International, Paragon Technology and Innovation, Bio Living, Elita, the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia to Germany in Berlin, as well as the General Indonesian Consulate in Frankfurt and Hamburg. And additionally, I would like to also thank you to our media partners, IMADE Andi Arsana, PPI Dunia and PPI Dunia for the region of America and Europe, Deutsche Welle Indonesia, Enter Nusantara, Case Project for Southeast Asia, the BBB Book Club, Lindungi Hutan, DAAD Indonesia, and Kenal Indonesia. Last but not least, we'd also like to extend our gratitude, of course, to our knowledge partner, the Energy Academy of Indonesia, or abbreviated as EKADI. Without their endless support in this endeavor, we would not have been able to host Iconic and would not have been able to meet all of us here. So first of all, starting with the opening remarks and greetings, I'd like to start off with our dear president of the Indonesian Students Association in Germany, Ms. Agnia Dewi Larasati. So please, Ms. Larasati, you can take the stage.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, good morning, guten morgen. I would like to welcome His Excellency Pak Arif Hafaz Ugroseno, the Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to the Federal Republic of Germany, with Pak Antonius Yudi Triantoro and Bu Renata Siagian, our Consul General of the Republic of Indonesia to the Federal Republic of Germany in Frankfurt and Hamburg. I would also like to welcome the Vice President for Research and Sustainability of Georg August Universität Göttingen, Professor Bernhard Bruma, the founder and CEO of Ekadin, Bu Devti Alkano, PhD, Director General of Climate Change from the Ministry of Environment and Forest, Bu Laksmi Dewanti, Deputy Head of Division Southeast Asia, BMZ Ministry of the Federal Republic of Germany, Dr. David Kanto, and all distinguished speakers, Georg Buchholz, and everybody who are already present here. I would like to also to greet the beloved director of ICONIC and my vice president, Sekar Yunika, and all the ICONIC team, and also all participants and observers who are here to join our event. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to welcome you all to ICONIC 2024, the International Conference of Integrated Intellectual Community on Low Carbon Development and Innovation. As the president of PPI Jerman, I am proud, and we have to be proud, that we are representing the vibrant Indonesian student community in Germany and to be part of this crucial dialogue on sustainability. ICONIC 2024 is more than just a conference. It is a call to action. The theme of transforming low carbon development is both timely and essential. As we face the growing impacts of climate change, our discussions here will shape the strategies and innovations needed to create a sustainable future. This conference is our opportunity to contribute to the global movement towards a greener world. I remember talking about the idea of this year's ICONIC with Sekar. It is a biannual event, but we want to make sure that this time it is 3 times better and more interesting to all. So before we dive into the sessions ahead, I want to express my deepest gratitude to the organizing committee. Your hard work, creativity, and dedication have been the driving force behind ICONIC 2024. From coordinating with international speakers to managing every logistical detail, you've ensured that this event runs smoothly and successfully. The challenges were many, but your resilience and teamwork made it all possible. Sekar, Geraldus, Karin, Gama, Chaskar, Hessel, Barisma, Aca, Dila, Bea, PPI Göttingen, Baniken, Mas Papang, and all the great people whose name I cannot say one by one today, thank you for making this event a reality. Let's give a big round of applause to the entire community. To our esteemed speakers and participants, thank you for being here. Your insights and expertise are what make ICONIC a powerful platform for change. I encourage everyone to engage fully, share ideas, and collaborate. This is our chance to push the boundaries of what's possible in low carbon development. As we move forward, let's remember the responsibility we carry. We are the next generation of leaders and innovators, and the choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow. ICONIC 2024 is our stage to showcase our commitment to a sustainable future, and I'm confident that together we can make a real impact. Lastly, thank you for our knowledge partner, Ekadin, and all sponsors that help this event runs even better. Once again, welcome to ICONIC 2024. Let's make this event truly iconic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agnia, for the remarks. And next, we will have our esteemed Indonesian ambassador to the Federal Republic of Germany, His Excellency, Mr. Arif Hafaz Ugroseno, to greet you again with a few words as a part of officially officiating Iconic 2024. So please welcome His Excellency, Mr. Arif Hafaz Nugrosen.
Ini Pak.
Yeah.
A very good morning to everybody here. Let me first of all extend my congratulations to PPI Jerman under Agnia and her team, and also Sekar, who is the director of Iconic in this event. And also let me extend my warmest welcome to Ibu Dirjen, Mbak Ami. I've known her for berapa lama, Mbak ya? So many years. And of course, Professor Bernard Brummer, representing the Göttingen University. Pak David, I call you Pak David because you've been in Jakarta before, so you should be able to speak Bahasa Indonesia, yeah? A little bit. And Pak Georg as well, and my colleague, Ibu Konjen, Ibu Renata, Pak Konjen, Pak Yudi, and Pak Desti. From the colonial power next door. I think he's driving like 6 hours or so from the country below the water. Yeah. So this is a very great event today. First of all, I think it's because of PPI has organized this iconic again. I think I've been speaking to this iconic event since I came here a long time ago. I think my first iconic event was 2018. So this is my almost 7th year as ambassador in Germany. So I hope I will not speak iconic again next year. So I hope I will wrap up my work here soon. And secondly, of course, we have a very close relationships with Göttingen University. Professor Brummer mentioned that IPB was one of the strong partner of Göttingen University in forestry and in many other aspects as well. And I think this is one area where I'm looking to see the president today, whether we can expand the cooperations even further in the future, because I think forestry is one of very important element today in our environment. And also, of course, we are entering into the unknown, the EUDR. So next week I will go to Rotterdam. Ibu Desti, I will be speaking on the EUDR itself with a lot of international colleagues. So I also want to hear informally from different colleagues today on how they see in the forestry in the future. The third one, I think lastly, I don't want to hold you with boring speeches. I just want to share with you, Prof. Brummer, that PPI, the Indonesian Student Association, is actually a very serious organization. This organization was established in 1922, long before our independence. And these are the students in the old days who are looking at how Indonesia would look like if the Dutch leave Indonesia. These are the young intellectuals of Indonesia in Europe at that time. They learn the reality of colonialism in Europe. A very interesting article I found, one of the students in Europe at the time looked at the difference of maps of Indonesia in Europe. In Indonesia, the map of the Netherlands, the small canal in Amsterdam was pictured as bigger than Musi River. So it gives a notion that these guys are really big and tall and powerful, which is apparently not so much. And this gave a reality check, I think, and these students, they had a lot of ambitions, they had a lot of ideas, on how we will develop our country. So I think these are our future, these are our generation, these are our leaders in the future, and I believe their events today, for instance, taking on the issue of the environment is one of the examples on the thinking about our country, on the thinking about the future of Indonesia, and I think we can place a lot of hopes and wishes for them in the future. So once again, I want to applause and give thanks to PPI Jerman and PPI Indonesia who participated on this event. So big applause to them. I think that would basically close my short remarks. I hope that in these coming days, there will be a lot of ideas coming out. There will be some interesting recommendation that we can follow through. Maybe you can send the recommendations to me as the ambassador, and I will send to Indonesia, I will send to Ibu Laxmi. And I hope that this will also give another idea for the next iconic, maybe on semiconductor. So this is one of the ideas that we hope we can further in the future. So once again, selamat dan terima kasih atas kesempatan yang diberikan pada saya dan juga pada Ibu Konjen dan Pak Konjen yang datang hari ini, dan juga tim dari Berlin, ada Pak Roni, ada Pak Devi, ada Bu Nisa. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hafaz Ugroseno, for the thoughtful messages. And now representing our gracious host for this year's Iconic 2024, the Georg August University of Göttingen, Prof. Berhard Brümer, as the Vice President for Research and Sustainability, would also like to welcome you all personally. So please welcome Prof. Brümer.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Ari, for the welcoming words. And in order not to forget to greet anybody who's important in this round, I just include everybody who has been greeted before in my welcome speech by referring to the previous speakers. It's my pleasure, and that comes by heart, to be here. Selamat pagi. I'm very happy to see Iconic 24 happening here in Göttingen and happening under such an important theme: decarbonization, the path towards a greener future, sustainability in the true meaning of the word, extending both the environmental to the economic and the social dimension. That's a great challenge. And I must say, the remark that you are now the next generation to solve the upcoming problems seems to me like a very promising attitude towards the future, an attitude that I would like to see personally much, much more often in the discussions around climate change. You mentioned already that we stand at a crossroads, and all of us, be it government, business, academia, civil society, face the challenge of coping with climate change, with decarbonization. And I think we all agree that it's essential to foster partnerships and collaboration within countries, but also between countries, in order to solve the global challenges. And I would maybe briefly like to mention a few of the cornerstones of the German approach to decarbonization, maybe to illustrate what's going on, and maybe also to serve as a basis for the future discussion, what can be maybe done better in the future too. The main headline that we have here in Germany is the so-called Energiewende. This Energiewende builds already on a long tradition of policy making in the field of renewable resources, but it embraces all the measures that belong to the decarbonization process. Parts of this are fixed commitments to phase out the use of coal in the coming future. This will come to an end by 2038. And is accompanied by quite a number of structural supportive measures in order to also make this ecologically motivated change sustainable in the social dimension. And that is also pretty helpful for the universities in those regions where we had massive coal power production, because they are also benefiting from these measures in North Rhine-Westphalia and also in parts of Saxony. We are working towards a consistent scheme of carbon pricing. We have a national carbon price, which is, some people say too low, some other people say already it's much too high, so maybe it's not too bad. This comes on top to the European-wide emissions trading scheme that, as you might know, will be extended in 2027 to also include the extremely important sectors of traffic and of housing. And that will also put a price on the ton of carbon. And I think that we need at the global level also in some form or the other. Another field is sustainable mobility. That's part of the Energiewende to improve the local transportation and the long distance transportation. Those of you who happened to travel with the Deutsche Bundesbahn to Göttingen might have realized that there is still scope for improvement in that area currently, but we're working towards this. And finally, the innovation dimension, technology development. That's also an important field in which we invest from both federal and local governments quite a bit. Even here at the university, we have installed a very innovative transfer and startup space together with the city of Göttingen, and that's also supposed to foster innovation in this field. If you look at the results, then you could conclude that Germany has been extremely successful in reducing emissions, 40% since 1990. Of course, we are all aware part of that comes from the effect of German reunification. So we should not be too proud of ourselves, but be realistic about it. There is a long way ahead of us, but I think we are seeing the first successes. Let me maybe move on to say a bit about what we do at the university in order to foster sustainability. Actually, I was perfectly correctly introduced as the Vice President for Research and Sustainability, but that's pretty new. Only since this January, actually, we have explicitly mentioned the field of sustainability as directly represented in the presidential board, and that's also meant to send a message to the university at large. We are doing a lot of research in the field of sustainability. The ambassador mentioned already the role of the Faculty of Forestry, together with the Faculty of Agriculture and parts of Geography and Biology. These faculties form here at Göttingen the so-called green faculties, and those naturally, I'm tempted to say, are now working a lot on sustainability and decarbonization related questions. And they do so not least in close collaboration with Indonesian partners. I myself have been involved over the past 12 years, starting in 2012, with a collaborative research center efforts that took place in Sumatra in the province of Jambi. And we were looking there at the effects that the rapid expansion of oil palm plantations had in the region, both in the ecological, social, and the economic dimensions. And that was a very, very fruitful collaboration. DFG rules dictate that that needs to come to an end at some point, so we could not continue, but we're working towards having successor projects, and there is already a small initiative that's continuing to run in Sumatra there. Other fields that are important here at the university include smart mobility concepts and also the whole field of data science that is, to me at least, key also for solving future problems, because we need to have good data in order to be able to answer these questions. Our direct commitment to sustainability as far as the campus is concerned is also visible and increasing. We have changed since 22 to green power consumption. We are setting up plans together with the city of Göttingen to establish a free-range photovoltaic area. here close to Göttingen that will, if successful, cover 40% of the power consumption of the whole university, including the clinic. We are also looking for more sustainable ways of getting the necessary warmth, the heating in the university campus on more thorough grounds. The data science component is also related to the high performance computing that we host here at Göttingen. And we are a bit proud to actually mention that the new high performance computing cluster that we've established 2 years ago there is indeed the most energy efficient high performance computing cluster in Germany. And even worldwide, it's on rank number 12. This will change from year to year and we will be passed below, I guess. That's the nature of technical projects there. But nevertheless, it shows also very elegantly what you can do if you think in connected ways for various infrastructure measure. The heat that is generated in this high performance cluster is now used to heat the new greenhouse that the Faculty of Agriculture has started this year. These types of concepts, I think, would be very, very promising for the future. Let me come to an end by adding a personal note. I'm extremely happy that we at Göttingen are now able to host Iconic 24 here. I traveled to Indonesia the first time, it must have been in 2011, to Bogor, to Jambi, and I was always overwhelmed by the great hospitality that the Indonesian counterparts, the partners, extended to all of us, to those who had been long time ago, the first time in Indonesia, but also to the newcomers, to the research teams. And I felt always as at home. I was glad then to have 4 PhD students in my group over the past 12 years. And I'm very glad that we have an opportunity actually now to host at least Iconic as a small sign of our appreciation of the Indonesian hospitality too. So I would like to express my thanks to the Indonesische Studentenvereinigung e.V., I need to use one word of German here too, for organizing this. All the additional supporters have been mentioned. I extend my thanks also to them, of course, and thank for your attention. Wish you a fruitful conference and terima kasih.
So thank you very much, Professor Brummer, for the kind words. And continuing on, as we have mentioned before, today we also have the joy to collaborate with our knowledge partner, Energy Academy of Indonesia, in holding Iconic 2024 this year. And thus would like to welcome Desti Alkano, PhD, as Academy CEO all the way from Indonesia. So please welcome Ms. Desti Alkano.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, distinguished guest speakers, panelists, and participants. As mentioned before, as a knowledge partner of this highly anticipated program, it's really an honor for us, also a privilege for us to welcome you at the Iconic 2024. I was not flying from Indonesia, but then from Belanda, from the Netherlands, last night. And yeah, so I do believe that all of you, well, agree that this event is not just a conference. It's a platform, I should say, for collaboration, for innovation, transformation, for low carbon development, where we gather here is not just for discuss about the future, about our future, but to shape it together. And this year, as you also well recognize, the themes of the Iconic 2024 is rethinking development, low carbon and high impact, where for me itself, or myself, is such a call for action, a call for rethink, for reimagine, for, well, trying to contribute to reshape the future where, currently we're living in an era where addressing climate change and a green transformation has never been more critical. And Indonesia, particularly with its abundant resources, abundant of opportunity and growing economy is currently uniquely positioned itself to be a leader, to lead the Southeast Asia's transformation. And however, these transitions is not requiring only about ambition, but also requiring bold innovation, bold strategic collaborations, partnerships, and also a commitment from all of us, from governmental organizations, from academia, from industry leaders, as well as civil society. And at ECADIN, or Energy Academy Indonesia, we always believe that the knowledge and innovations are the cornerstones of the progress. That's why we brought together some of the brightest minds and also, passionate advocates across the globe to share their insights, to share their challenges and also success. And also, as also mentioned before, over the next 3 days, we will explore together cutting-edge technologies, as well as breakthrough research and hopefully forward-thinking policies that push us, driving us towards greener transitions in interactive sessions, including the ministerial talks, and then career talks, and then meet the industries, as well as conferences. We will also hear about 54 presenters representing from 40 universities and 17 companies. So it's quite huge, I should say, opportunities for us to challenge our perspective, our horizons on economical, social, political, technological innovations, and build environment for low carbon development. So indeed, those makes the iconic 2024 truly special, I should say, in addition to the overwhelming of participations and enthusiasms from our fellow Indonesians to address some of the most pressing challenges of our time. So therefore, I encourage, all of us to actively participate, explore new potentials of collaboration, share your expertise towards the low carbon development. So in closing, I would like to extend my gratitude to all of our partners, sponsors, and then particularly to the entire organizing committees for their tireless efforts, hard work, so that is in making the iconic 2024 possible. I would like also to thank each of you for your participations, both on site and online. I heard about more than 250 participants registered for online sessions today and the next coming 3 days. And thank you for bringing your passion, your expertise to this important conversation. So I believe you agree that the work and collaboration we do here is not just for today, but then for generations to come. So thank you, and let's work together for sustainability, as we believe that sustainability is not just a goal, but then sustainability is a collective responsibility. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So thank you, Ms. Alcano, for the opening remarks, and sorry for the slight mistake at the beginning there. Additionally, last but not least, of course, I would like to welcome Iconic 2024's director that has truly given it all and tirelessly coordinated and spearheaded this conference, that allowed of all of us to be together here. So yeah, Ms. Sakar Yunita, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Sorry, I printed my speech and then I was criticized that it is not low carbon, but I'm studying forestry, so I have to keep the business alive. Distinguished guests, other speakers, and also esteemed colleagues, first of all, on behalf of the organizing committee, we are especially grateful and honored to have with us today some of the respected guests here, Ibu Laksmi, flying from Indonesia directly yesterday, and also Pak Hafaz, and Professor Bruma, and then Pak Dikbud, and Mbak Desti, of course, our knowledge partner, and then Ibu Renata from Hamburg, and then Pak Yudi from Frankfurt, and then Pak David, and also Pak Georg from PMZ, and also from GIZ. Thank you so much for participating and also for coming to this conference. Also, I would like to extend the gratitude to the sponsors who make the Students Run conference possible. Because yes, I would like to remind you again, and Pak Hafaz has also reminded that this conference is in fact, after all, run by students. So even though I'm pretty sure maybe there are some of us here, participants that might think that we hired a professional, even organizers, but eventually no, we eventually carry out this whole conference while struggling and also juggling with our study and also part-time work to survive in Germany. So even now, like if you see like the online participants that are on the live stream now, you might think that we have like 10 people in the IT team, but eventually our IT team is powered by 2 people as the backbone of the professional live streaming. So I would like to invite you all to give applause to all of this organizing committee. Therefore, I would like to thank you once again to our sponsors, our donors, and our supporters, the Indonesian Embassy in Germany, and the Indonesian Consul General in Hamburg, the Indonesian Consul General in Frankfurt, University of Göttingen, Center for Biodiversity and Land Use, QSI, Astra International, Trio, Paragon, Zinc Power, BioLiving, and Elita. You are one of the reasons the young people like us could continue doing things that we are believing in. Thank you so much. So this year marks the 10th anniversary for the Iconic. So this has been the 5th Iconic, because Iconic is conducted every 2 years. And over the years, our focus has consistently been on the development. And as we gather here today, I feel that it is my duty now to actually share with you why the organizing committee has chosen the topic bringing the low carbon development to the global south for this year's discussion. And I will not bombard you with statistics about rising temperatures or sea levels, because I believe you will hear plenty of that in the next 3 days. So instead, I will just share you a journey and also a story from a place that holds a special corner of my heart, which is my hometown, and also apparently the hometown of His Excellency Pak Hafaz, which is Semarang, Indonesia. And Semarang, if you Google now in the maps, Semarang is actually a coastal city, and then it is a city that is rich in history and culture, and it is also known for the delicious delicacies. So if you Google Semarang now, you probably want to book your next flight for your holiday to Semarang, just to wander through our old town or like to taste our lumpia. However, there's like this one thing that doesn't make it to the touristic brochure about Semarang, which is the flood in Semarang. So you see, even before there is this term climate change, my beloved hometown, which is Semarang, was already battling with the climate war. And our city landscape is actually beautiful with like this very like exciting topography, but then it is also very, very vulnerable for frequent flooding. And let me share you a story actually like about 15 to 20 years ago when I was at school, when I was studying. I will tell you like how the rainy season eventually felt like for us, because it felt eventually like a strange lottery. So my school was in the low-lying area of Semarang, and whenever there is a heavy rainstorm, we never know whether we are going to school or not the next day, because in some places in Germany, like the schools closed probably because of the snow. But then like in Semarang, we have like almost like in 6 months, like most often, like we are not going to the schools because of the floods eventually. And to us kids, this rainy season actually means an unexpected series of holidays. But this holidays is not eventually as fun as it sounds, because the floods actually steal our school days, steal our opportunity to actually hang out with our friends, and steal us from the education that we eventually deserve. So eventually, 5 years ago, or like 6 years ago, when I went to the school has been eventually now demolished. So this school is not existing anymore. So the funny thing is now that like I'm holding a degree from a school that is not even existing anymore because of this flood, and also because this land has been like under the water. So now I know that some of us here in this room like have the privilege of distance, and it is easy to be detached when we're not living in the reality. But for many, like for example, for my classmates and also for many people in the global south today, for people who are living in the islands, like the climate crisis is not an abstract concept or not the problem of tomorrow. It is eventually something that they have been struggling today. They are actually facing as we speak right now. So that's why we are bringing this topic to Iconic, because we aim to be more than just a conversation starter. We want to be a bridge, a connection between the problems we know all too well and the solutions that we urgently need. And over the next 3 days, we will dive into the meaningful discussions with the speakers that you could already see among you, and also you could see like in the list. And we are going to explore potential solutions to close the gap in implementing and financing this essential development. So probably like a bit of like reporting what we are going to do next afterwards, because we don't want Iconic to just stop here until like 6 September. After the Iconic, eventually Iconic is committed to create lasting change through several key initiatives. First, we are going to compile a policy brief from our discussions, also like with ECADIN, also with our policy research group, which is comprising the PhD students, Indonesian PhD students in Germany, to explore potential solutions about low carbon development in Indonesia. And we are going to present this to embassy, to the Indonesian government, and also to World Bank. We have also secured a presentation to the World Bank after Iconic, and also probably to BMZ. Like, if you're interested, I think you're interested. And second, we plan also the ideas from our conference presenters that we are going to publish a book from the presenters that have submitted the abstract. So we ensure that the knowledge we share will reach wider audiences. And then finally, we are collaborating as well with NGO Lindungi Hutan, or in English, it's Protect the Forest, to plant mangroves along Indonesia's coastline. And if you're passionate about making a difference and also about donating for like mangrove plantings, we are still opening the donations for mangrove planting until Friday, and you can visit us in the booth to actually donate these actions. So together we are going to make this 3 days count. And I understand that with conferences, it is very, very easy to be skeptical about the impact, because we know that some of us attend and then leave and then eventually forget that the discussions we have today and in the days to come. But let's remember, and I want to remind you then and again, that this conference was born from the dream of hundreds of Indonesian students living in Germany, and many of whom are here with us today, sitting among you and even speaking here in front of you. So these individuals will carry the spirit that we built here, not for themselves, but for countless others whose lives will intersect with theirs for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
So thank you towards all the speakers for all of the kind words and welcoming opening remarks. So moving on, now for those of you who are not too familiar with events held in Indonesia or by Indonesians, all of you should know that we love ceremonial processions and gestures, especially in the commencements of large events like Iconic 2024. Thus, to add a bit of that so-called quintessential flair of festivities to Iconic 2024, we would also like to welcome you all here in a truly authentic Indonesian manner by means of a dance performance. So we are honored today to bring to you a traditional Indonesian dance performance, courtesy of the performer Mr. Jauhar Miftarika. And the dance that is going to be performed is a masked dance called Topeng Kelana, originating from the region of Cirebon in West Java. Now, this type of masked dance is a very popular folk art form originating from the villages of Cirebon from around the 10th and 11th century. Its movements and the red mask used are supposed to represent and embody the overpowering feelings of uncontrollable passions like anger, drunkenness, power, and greed, and well, supposed to serve a reminder for all of us here to keep our passions moderated at bay so that we don't act too spontaneously. So to relieve you of your high anticipation, this dance performance will be the official start of Iconic 2024. Thus, ladies and gentlemen, the 5th International Conference of the Integrated Intellectual Community in the University of Göttingen 2024 is declared to be open. Please, a round of applause.
Sing asila, sing asu.
Wow, what a start to our conference, eh? So, clearly started on a high spirits, of course. But before we jump into the ministerial talk taking place in Hotel over there, at exactly 10:45, there's going to be a short coffee break of around 15 minutes. So you can perhaps recharge, have a few snacks, and prepare yourself for the content, I guess, for the next ministerial talks and plenary sessions. So, and also for the participants and observers, please observe that your wristbands are ready because they are a sign that you've registered in ICAR 2024. And if so, you haven't had your wristbands on you or you haven't received one, you can approach one of our ticketing staffs as indicated in their name tags. And so, please, also the snacks will be available on this corner over here for you to take. And other than that, so please enjoy your snacks, your coffee break, and I will see you very shortly later on in the main plenary hall. So thank you.
Kok lu nggak sorry, maaf. Nggak ini refleks. Bisa ngambil snack dari hall sana, snacknya di situ udah 10 lah udah jam lokasi. Tapi tadi nggak bisa lanjut karena jauh. Nanti minta di asal. Tadi gue juga kesini gue nggak ngomongin banyak mana lagi. Nggak mau ini udah berapa? Tolong di zoom mulai panik. Ini di play di sini aja. Kalau kuat, kalau ini di play di sini boleh atau dibiarin. Tapi kameranya nggak dipakai. Oke, kameranya dicabut 15 menit. Oke, bentar. Atau 20 menit sebelum.
Cek, satu cek, cek. Aman ya? Halo, cek. Cek aman, harusnya aman, semoga aman. Cek, cek. Oke.
Cek, satu. Aman nggak, Cak? Aman ya?
Halo, halo. Ini ngomongnya nggak boleh terlalu deket. Jadi gini aja. Ya. Coba lu kayak ngomong deh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih saudara-saudara atas kehadirannya di acara Iconi 2024. Wih.
Nah ini audionya dari gua berarti. Tim IT kumpul di ZHG, tim IT kumpul di ZHG.
Ada cara yang buat agak bersih sedikit.
Kita standby, slide udah on. Slide QR udah aman belum? Udah aman. Pakai QR yang baru. Iya. Boleh dites sekali lagi buat make sure aja. Maksudnya udah financing low carbon. Maksudnya akan masuk. Cek.
Begini. Buset. Aman aja, bentar ya. Tes. Nggak masuk ya? Tes. Bentar dihidupin lagi. Bentar dia mau dihidupin dulu. Karena emang lu pada orang IT, buset deh. Perjuangannya. Duduk aja. Langsung udah mulai di asar-asarin. Tolong. Tes.
turbulensi dikit ya.
Tapi jangan terlalu dekat ya. Oke, gini. Tes.
Sama yang di sini kan juga kan di blok kan ya. Dia agak di belakang. Sudah. Gue jalan ya.
So please settle down, everyone. We're going to start with the ministerial talk. Okay, so welcome everyone to the ministerial talk with the main headline of financing low carbon development in Indonesia. So as we all know, large-scale transitions, such as a transition towards a low carbon economy, and future requires a lot of effort in terms of financing these required technologies and projects. And of course, there would need to be policy adjustments to accommodate for this. However, how should such responsibility be shared between the different nations across the globe? Who is responsible? These are important questions. And are we all really in the same boat, as it is said? This very predicament would be the exact matter we're going to discuss in the ministerial talk. And to guide us through this session, we have Sekar Yunita as our moderator. Sekar Yunita is the Vice President of the Indonesian Students Association in Germany, and is also currently pursuing a PhD in Forest Economics and Sustainable Land Use Planning here in the University of Göttingen. And she is also a researcher in that exact same field. Additionally, she has also amassed diverse experiences ranging from her work in the GIZ, in the field of sustainable forest management and peatland management, and currently works as a carbon regulation analyst at TRIO. So, she will guide us through discussion along with our esteemed panel of guests that she will introduce to tackle this very essential topic. So, without further ado, please welcome once more Miss Yunita.
Thank you, Chaska, as the MC. Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure again to speak in front of you. Now, not as the director of Iconic, but as the moderator of this ministerial talk session. I believe that all of you have been anticipating this very important session. And to kickstart the session, I think I want to be a bridge between your current knowledge now to like what we are going to discuss later. So, first of all, I would like to engage you in could you please next? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Wait, yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry, technical issue. As I mentioned earlier, that our IT team are only 2 people, so please give a big applause to our IT team that have been working so hard for this really big conference. I think without them, the people that are now attending online cannot even like enjoy this also privilege that you're also enjoying. So, yeah, still not working. Yeah, the next saja. Yeah. So I would like to invite you to scan this barcode here in the slido.com and then please give your answer regarding this question. The first question is, should all countries be equally responsible for climate change? And then we're going to give you the direct answer here as well. I will give 1 minute for you to scan the barcode and then to answer the question. Okay, 51 people, 53 have joined, 56. More and more. 57, 58. 60, 62 have joined the poll. Make sure you also join the poll. 67. Okay, I will stop at 67 now. Can we show the result? Yes, as you see here, that 56% of us believe that all countries should not be equally responsible, but 43% believe that all countries should be equally responsible. And then next, another question, please answer. So when it comes to climate change, we are all in the same boat, which means that its impacts are evenly distributed across the globe. What do you think? 38, 43 have joined the polls, 47, wow. 59. Okay, now it's already already passing 70, then let's show the result. Yes, so when it comes to climate change, 55% agree that we all are in the same boat and that the impacts are evenly distributed across the globe. Meanwhile, 45% disagree with this statement. So let me take you a bit to the journey before we are going to the session and also the talks by the panelists today. Next. So as you all know, or probably as some Indonesians know, in case you don't know, that in 2045, Indonesia eventually aims to achieve the high income status while also reducing emission. And the overarching objective of reaching net zero is also aimed at 2060. Eventually, this is not only something that Indonesia is struggling with, or also Indonesia is envisioning with, but also it's something that if you are looking at other country or like developing countries development plan, for example, Vietnam is also having like the target of achieving the high income status by 2045, and also India is also targeting to achieve the high income status by 2047. So it's like a trend for like developing nations, like they have like these targets to actually achieve high income status. Meanwhile, they also have the obligation to reduce the emission. Next. However, the problem is there's eventually in history no country in the world that has successfully achieved the high income status while reducing emission. So if you see here in the figure presented by World Bank, even if all the industrial economies or like all the developed economies, developed countries are already having the decarbonizing trend, it is still actually the GHG emission per capita is still like higher than that of the developing economies, because there is this traditional way of doing development, which is the emission and also the economic growth are actually impossible to decouple. So this is actually something that developing nations are trying to demystify. So next. And if you want to look closely regarding the finance, so Indonesia will eventually need up to $200 billion until 2030, which is approximate to 20% of its GDP to successfully decarbonize its economy. And there are so many headlines if you are looking that climate finance is eventually the biggest problem when developing nations want to decarbonize their economy. So it is eventually the problem of the developing nations, because their problem is not only how to decarbonize, but also how to reduce poverty, how to give education for all, and etc. There are multi-dimensional problems in the developing nations aside from climate change. And if you see next, if you see here as well, look at this big figures, and then like look at like this, the ones that have like big squares here, like for example USA, EU28, or like China. These are the countries who has contributed most to the global CO2 emission. You could see close, you don't have to look even like closely, you just like see like the distribution of the emission, and then next, if you see now who are most affected from 2000 and 2019, you will see that none of these countries are even like on the list that I mentioned before. Therefore, these are the countries that will be most affected, but these countries are eventually not the ones that are contributing the most to the greenhouse gases emission. So, next, to conclude, before we enter the session, eventually we are not all in the same boat, because some of us have been thrown overboard, so a rising tide affects us differently. Therefore, next, I would like to invite, and I would like to start these discussions. Like, we are going to hear the keynote speeches from the three distinguished speakers. There's Ibu Laksmi Dewanti from Indonesian Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Dr. David Tanto from Development and Cooperation Ministry of the Federal Republic of Germany, and His Excellency Mr. Arif Hafaz Ugroseno from Indonesian Ambassador to Germany. So they are going to share their opinions, insights, updates, also status of like what is happening in this regard, like. And then like we are going to actually narrow it down to like Indonesia and Germany, because like this is like Indonesian government and German government that are coming here. And if you guys are having questions in parallel to the session, please feel free to submit your question in this barcode, the one that is in my left side here, because all questions will be collected and I will be asking your question at the end of the session. So without further ado, I would like to invite Ibu Laksmi Dewanti from Indonesian Ministry of Environment and Forestry to the stage for delivering the keynote speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Sekar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning. May Allah have mercy and peace upon us. So my name is Laksmi Dewanti. I'm from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. I came yesterday. Unfortunately, this evening I have to fly back to Jakarta. I'm given 3 questions by the organizing committee. Somebody would like to assist me in showing the presentations, please? Do I have the access for the remote? Okay, next slide, please. I'm given 3 questions from the organizers, and I thought the questions are very broad. As I only have 20 minutes, so I try to be
Recording in progress.
I try to be very brief. But first of all, I would like to thank the PPI Jerman for having this iconic 2024. I'm glad to be here. A best regard from the Madam Siti Nurbaya, the Minister of Environment and Forestry. Next, please. Okay. Although the topic of this session is financing low carbon development, I'm given 3 these questions. First, I need to update you regarding the follow Natsing 2030, and I'm asking to brief you, inform regarding the payment for ecological services or payment for ecosystem services and the international corporations. Next, please. Next, please. As Sekar already mentioned about our commitments, let I briefly remind you that Indonesia's commitment on climate change, it's already started back in 1997 when we ratified the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This slide showing the 2050 2015, when the Paris Agreement agreed and ratified by most of the countries in the world. Before Paris Agreement, I just would like to remind you, before the Paris Agreement, we have the Protocol Kyoto. In the Protocol Kyoto, Indonesia and other developing countries are not mandatory to reduce its greenhouse gas emission. Only after we ratified the Paris Agreement, all the developing countries, including Indonesia, as well as the developed countries, of course, are mandatory to reduce its greenhouse gas emission. So we set up our nationally determined contribution. It's based on the common but differentiated responsibility principle. So we set up our nationally determined contribution. Up till now, we already have 4 NDCs submitted to UNFCCC. We have our intended NDC, first NDC, updated NDC, and now we have the enhanced NDC. You can see we increase our commitment from 29% reducing emission by 2030 compared to business as usual. Now we have 31.89%. And this target will be increased if Indonesia receives international support. And this target will be increased to 43.2%. Next, please. Okay, this is our target in NDC. We have the mitigations target, the one in the table, for 5 sectors: Folu, energy, agriculture, IPPU. IPPU is industrial process and product use, and energy. And we also have adaptations target. We would like to enhance our climate resiliences in economic, in social, and in landscape point of view. Next, please. So, Sekar mentioned about the net zero emission. In fact, net zero emission is not mandated by the Paris Agreement. It's not a target, but it's the vision of our long term. So a part of nationally determined contributions, back in 2021, Indonesia submitted its long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience 2050. And within this document, we predict that Indonesia will achieve the net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. Why we put or sooner? Because there are assumptions within this document. And the long-term strategy exercises 3 scenarios: the current policy scenario, which is the policy at 2019. We have the transition policy, and we have the LCCP, which is the low carbon compatible with Paris Agreement. We agreed to adopt the LCCP target, and within the LCCP target, we predict that we're gonna to use or to reach the net zero emission by 2060 or sooner, with 2 backbones. The first backbone is Follow Natsing 2030, and the second is energy transition mechanism. Next, please. Yeah, this is the projections of financial requirement to achieve the NDC's target by 2030. It's based on our biannual updated report, the 3rd biannual updated report. So you can imagine that we indeed need so much resources, not mentioning technology, not mentioning the human resources, but indeed from the financial point of view, we need huge resources. Next, please. Next, please. So I'm going to update you with Follow Natsing 2030. As I mentioned before, Follow Natsing is one of the backbones in achieving the net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. Follow Natsing 2030 means that by 2030, in the Follow sector, we're going to reach the emissions equal or below the capacity of sequestrians of the emission from the sectors. And we predict to have the emission from Follow sector by 2030 around minus 140 million CO2 equivalent. Why minus? Because in 2030, Follow Natsing will be the balance sector for other sector. We know that we still need to emit from the energy sector, industry sector, agriculture, and many other sectors. So the forest will be balancing those emissions from those sectors. Next, please. So I already mentioned about this, the CPOS, the transition scenario, and the LCCP. So you can see the green one is the emission from the FOLU sector. You can see the 5 sector of INDC in this scenario. So FOLU net sink, it's to ensure that Indonesia will arrive at the net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. Next. This is the FOLU greenhouse gas emissions trajectories compared on our NDC, the countermeasure 1. Countermeasure 1 is the 31.89% target, and the long-term strategy scenario, the LCCP scenario. So you can see from this slide that we predict the greenhouse gas emission from FOLU sectors from various activities within the FOLU sectors. Next, please. Indonesia FOLU net sink was introduced to systematize and to have the strategic operationalized on the FOLU sector to ensure that we're gonna to achieve, or we would like to have the sustainable forest management implementation, energy and environmental governance, as well as the carbon governance. So FOLU net sink basically is the guidance of FOLU sectors in reducing its greenhouse gas emission, in enhancing the sequestration capacity, as well as enhancing the emissions by 2030. Next, please. There are 15 plan of operations under the FOLU sectors. So every mitigation, a possible mitigation action under the FOLU net sink, it's are here. From the sustainable forest management, law enforcement, forest and land fire management, and many other plan of operations. So each individual province may have different plan of operations depend on their challenges. Next. So this is the distribution of project locations of the FOLU, and I put some of the hint of the current achievement of the FOLU net sink. For example, establishment of the forest unit management. Forest unit management is basically the forest, the management, the what you call it, site level management of the forest. So up till now, we have 539 forest management unit. We also have another strategy, which is the social forestry. So with target of 12.5 million hectares of forest given to the local community, given to the customary forest owners, Indonesia would like to build the forest sector not only from the big companies' point of view, but also from the social forestry. So part of the 12.5 million hectares target, by last month, we already achieved some, about 8 million hectares distributed by, for the communities. We also achieved the target by, we introduced the Silin and RealC as a new methodology as part of the social management, sustainable forest management. So by apply this methodology, the timber or the products, the use produced to the potential of natural forest was increased fourfold to 120 meter cubic per hectare, compared to the previous only 30 meter cubic per hectare. Next. So forest and land fire, it's one of the challenges of Indonesia. So starting in 2015, when we had a very big forest fire at the time, we changed our approach in managing the forest and land fire. Now we have so-called solution permanent. We shift our paradigm, we are not only distinguish the fire, but we prevent the fire from the beginning. So we have the climate analysis, we enhance our patrol at the local level, we bettering our landscape management, only to reduce the greenhouse gas emission from the forest and land fire management. Next, please. So this is the figures of the deforestation trend of Indonesia, 1990 to 2022. So you can see that Indonesia has been able to decrease its deforestation. Within the last 3 decades, Indonesia deforestation rate has significantly decreased. Next. It's also related and very much in line, linear, with the National Greenhouse Gas Inventory. We have our National Greenhouse Gas Inventory since 2010. At the time, even Indonesia has not mandated to reduce its greenhouse gas emission. But because we have a voluntary commitment in 2009, Indonesia developed its National Greenhouse Gas Inventory. And you can show from this slide, we have the business as usual as a baseline scenario. We have countermeasure 1 or CM1. It is the 31.89% target. We have CM2, which is the 43.2% target. The bar chart, the red one, is all sector, exclude the forest sector. The blue one, it's all sector, including the forest sector. So you can see that the emission from the forest sector is very significant to our greenhouse gas emission. The data from 2022 show that we're able to reduce the greenhouse gas emission below the target, or we achieve the target quite significantly. And we hope that since we already have the policy and corrective policy and actions, we able to maintain this performance till 2020-30. Next. Payment for ecological services. When we are talking about payment for ecological services, I need to remind you that Indonesia has issued the government regulations back in 2016. This is the regulation on environmental economic instrument. Indonesia, or the government, has to promote and develop a series or various of environmental economic instruments that will be used for the planning, for example, incentive or funding. Payment for ecological services is part of this economic instrument. We have the compensation. It's similar to payment for ecological services for the planning as a planning instrument. We also have the payment for ecosystem services as an incentive. So, based on this government regulation, Indonesia has established Indonesia Environmental Fund in 2019, and this Indonesian Environmental Fund manages all the funds received by the government of Indonesia and ensuring that the money received by the government will be delivered, will be utilized by all stakeholders who contribute to the effort in reducing the greenhouse gas emission, as well as in protecting and managing our environment. Next, please. So, payment for ecological services is part of our strategy in financing the environment protection and management, including the climate change mitigation and adaptation. We bettering our finance fiscal. We have already mitigation and adaptation climate budget tagging, so we know where government spending its money for both mitigation and adaptation action. We develop quite numbers of innovative financing instruments, blended finance, green sukuk, or green Syariah bond. We also would like to increase our access to the global resources from the global environmental facilities, Green Climate Fund, and many other global resources. We also would like to make our mitigation and adaptation action to be attractive to the investment, by introducing the environmental sound governance principle into the action. Next, please. This is the example of payment for ecosystem services. So following the government regulations, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry issued the guidance for the PES implementation. This is only 3 examples of the implementation of the PES with different provider and buyers and seller with different type of locations or ecosystem challenges. Next. Okay, the last part is the international. So Indonesia see that international support should be able to leverage and catalyze for the development program and action. So it's not fully funded. We need to have something in our own to chip in all the activities. So we would like to have the international cooperation to be mutual trust, mutual understanding, as well as mutual benefit for both, not only for the donors, but also for Indonesia. Next. If we try to mention the international cooperation related with Paris Agreement, we should regard the Article 6 of Paris Agreement. Article 6, knowing or well known as the carbon pricing. But for Indonesia, carbon pricing is not merely regarding Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. It is also Article 5 of the Paris Agreement. Article 5 of the Paris Agreement, basically, it's a mandate or is the encouragement for developed country parties to incentivize the developing country parties who are able to reduce its greenhouse gas emission from the forest sector. So, within our carbon pricing policy, it's Presidential Regulation number 89/2021, we have carbon trading. Under the carbon trading, we have emission trading as well as the carbon offset. We have result-based payment, which is reflected the Article 5 of Paris Agreement, while the carbon pricing or carbon trading is reflected the Article 6 of Paris Agreement. We also have the carbon taxation. We may start this carbon taxation with implementing the carbon tax sometimes next year, most probably. And we also have another mechanism, which is a flexibility for Indonesia to develop many other mechanisms. Because nowadays, there are attempts to merge the carbon pricing with the climate finance article. So we maintain our flexibility in developing the mechanism for our own purposes. Next. So result-based payment. I was attracted by one of the pictures in the beginning regarding the REDD, whether we need to bury our REDD in Indonesia. No, not the case. Indonesia, up till now, is the biggest recipient of result-based payment. This is only the example of 4 schemes that we already received the money. We have the national boundary project. We also have the jurisdictional or provincial project. So we have payment from the Green Climate Fund. This is the biggest RBP from the Green Climate Fund received by Indonesia for performance of 2014 to 2016. And performance is only 24.3 million CO2 equivalent. We received 103 million USD. And we also have received bilateral from the Norway, from different performance. We have biocarbon fund in Jambi. We have the FCVF in Kalimantan. So the payment, it's still far from our performance. The small tables show our performance annually in reducing the greenhouse gas emission from the deforestation, meaning that there are a lot of opportunity, and we need to encourage and we need to try our best to get more payment for our forests. We are not selling our forests. We would like to have our forests to be incentivized. Next. Okay. So that's my brief information to address 3 questions from the organizer. Hope it will be useful for us, and looking forward for having your input for enhancement of Indonesia's policies and program regarding the environmental protection and management as well as the climate change. I thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih. Thank you very much, Ibu Laksmi Dewanti, for the insightful updates and also status of what's happening regarding the forest policy and climate policy in Indonesia. I would like to remind you once again, before we move to the next speaker, please scan this barcode here in case you have questions. If you want to ask the panelists, please scan the barcode and then just type your questions there. We are collecting your questions, and then afterwards we're going to ask your questions at the end of the session. Okay. Now, without further ado, before we have invited the Indonesian counterpart, or like the Indonesian counterpart of the ministry, now we are going to invite the German counterpart of the ministry from BMZ, Dr. David Tanto. Please come to the stage. Time and place is yours.
So, yeah, maybe you can just click for me also. Just click. Thank you. Good morning, selamat pagi atau selamat siang. Yes, you can start with the first slide. Thank you very much for the previous speakers, and also apologies from my DG from the BMZ, the German Development Ministry. She cannot make it today because she's also overseas. So I hope to make up for it with also providing some first-hand experience with my quite long work with Indonesia now, because I actually lived in Indonesia 2017 to 2021, and then I returned to Germany to the BMZ, the Development Ministry headquarters, and I'm still in charge of the development cooperation with Indonesia. So, what are our objectives? It's all listed in the slide. Our focus of the Development Ministry is on global partners, and in Southeast Asia that would be Vietnam, but especially Indonesia is our biggest partner in Southeast Asia. And you see, actually tomorrow you also have a business summit. This is all fine, but I also would like to emphasize, as a civil servant for the federal government of Germany, and just now we had the federal government of Indonesia, this is all G2G, government to government. And because, of course, we cannot do anything in Indonesia which is not prior agreed with, so to speak, the host country of development cooperation. So, for instance, in 2 weeks' time in Berlin, we have the government-to-government negotiation about development cooperation, and that's when we mutually agree on projects for environmental and forest protection, among other themes. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, what are the themes? So that you just maybe understand where I come from, how the German federal government comes in. Because we take our responsibility to support developing countries serious. You have all heard about the Paris Agreement just now. So we have 5 potential topics with which we could work with partner countries across the world. And for Indonesia, it's always 3 out of 5. We are not engaging in peace building because Indonesia overall is already a peaceful nation, and also the hunger topic probably applies more to other regions of the world. So the 3 topics we work on are the ones with the star, is the basically TVET, is climate and energy, the just transition to clean energy, And that's going to be my focus. The last topic is going to be my focus today, protecting the natural resources as a basis for our livelihoods. I realize I have to stand on the cross. So, okay. So, next slide, please. Yeah. What do we want to reach with global partners such as Indonesia, with developing countries, emerging nations? So, of course, we hope it's going to be a mutual learning experience. Also, sometimes there's opportunities for triangular cooperation. Just we work with Indonesia in other countries, for instance, in Africa. But to be honest, this theme is a little bit still in the infant stage. Also, one point is important. We want to bring all the German ministries together for like joint action, what we call in Germany the resort-wise. We want to coordinate as a developing ministry of Germany, and our partner in Indonesia is the Bappenas, main partner. But of course, they also coordinate and liaise with other ministries. And we also need, while we say we chip in, we take our responsibility serious to implement the Paris Agreement, to give support, but we also need partner contributions. And that's why I'm so glad that Ibu Lakshmi is here and that you show so much initiative, the Indonesian Student Association, the ambassador, to organize such an event, to really show that the climate change matters throughout the world. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So, yeah, maybe next. So, here you see a little bit, I think this slide we can more or less also skip because the previous speaker touched it, and of course it's better to hear it firsthand from the Indonesia perspective as well. I just want to emphasize once more that Indonesia as an emerging economy has also sharply rising CO2 emissions, but at the same time also suffers from the impact of climate change. I mean, we heard at the opening the story from our moderator here, the school which doesn't even exist anymore, so this is probably a really good example and better than this theoretically based line. So next slide, please. Yeah, also according to, because also one reason why we protect the forests, or why it's good or makes sense to protect the forests is of course as a carbon thing, but it's also, I mean, I am from the development ministries, not necessarily from the German environment ministry. It's also the forests provide livelihoods for local residents, but it's also, it's a habitat for the fauna and flora and the biodiversity, and this is also an important factor which has to be accounted for. Can already put the next. So this once again, probably better to hear that from our Indonesian friends later, maybe also again. Just, I think the gist of this slide is that we see, or as a German development ministry, we see that also the urge or the necessity for development is very big in Indonesia and in global partners and emerging nations in the world. There is like really also a strong force to develop, for the economy to grow fairly quickly. There's not, so to speak, the luxury to say, okay, zero growth is enough. There's a luxury that emerging nations don't have. So the necessity to balance the economic development and environmental protection can only be achieved by means of a sustainable development path. But economic growth as such is also a must for such nations, and I think it's important for the developing world to also recognize that. If we don't recognize it, there cannot be any mutual understanding. Okay, next slide. Yeah. However, when you look at the SDG performance of Indonesia, this is not the latest data, but I don't believe it has that much changed in its tendency yet. You can see, I want to also only focus on the, if we focus here on SDG 15, life on land, you can really see by the graphic that as compared to other SDGs, the performance is still quite poor, to be frank, especially as compared to the other SDGs in which Indonesia fares better, and despite a very positive tendency of reducing the deforestation during the past 10 years, still remains a lot of work to be done jointly with development cooperation. Thank you. Next. So, once again, this is the international context. So as you can see, we have the same framework. The same framework, and I'm very happy to see that we are in agreement that my previous speaker has basically mentioned, Ibu Laxmi. As you can also see, the follow netzing strategy is a strategy which was fairly new to us, like 2 years ago, but we've incorporated that into our work. We work with the Convention on Biodiversity. We also support the 5-year plans of Bappenas. This is, I put here the ones which is still in place, but which will of course soon be replaced. We have a just energy transition partnership with Indonesia. It was signed November 20, or it was started November 2022 in Bali towards the end of the Indonesian G20 presidentship. One other thing, we also have our own, so to speak, guidelines. So to speak, we have also an Indo-Pacific strategy, which of the German federal government, which describes the entire region as a very emerging and rapidly growing part of the world, and Indonesia has a central role in it. Hence, it's our global development partner. Next. Yeah, let me now reiterate 3 areas of cooperation, and I would like to focus on protecting natural resources as a basis for our livelihood here, because it is a conference at the university which heavily specialized in forestry, forest protection, and because it aligns best with the other speakers. Okay, next slide, please. However, let me briefly mention, also in the other areas, we are currently undergoing some restructuring, and overall it's a greening of our development cooperation. For instance, when we talk about skill building, TVET, vocational and educational training, also this sector, we would like to engage more specifically in jobs which require green skills, jobs which are related, for instance, solar technicians or technicians for electronic vehicles, which are very strongly linked to the greening of the overall economy. Thank you. Climate and energy, just energy transition partnership I mentioned before. This is also like a milestone with Indonesia itself initiated in 2022. There is a group of supporting countries. Germany is but one of them. The US is in it, the ADB, Asian Development, multilateral actors provide a lot of funding. And of course, the goal is to be, just a colleague just mentioned, to have net zero emissions across all sectors, especially in the energy sector, latest 2060. However, the forestry sector is going to be the pioneer. It's going to be the net sink from 2030 on. We've also heard about that. So next slide, please. Yeah. This one, we also care about the sustainable urban development with our development cooperation. We have many large-scale projects which are funded by the BMZ through the KfW Development Bank, and here I just put 2 examples, but there are many more. So, for instance, Surabaya, as you all know, the second city of Indonesia, like the German Hamburg maybe, the big harbor. It doesn't have a really good or electrified public transport regional railway system yet. That's why you have the whole story of congestion, a lot of traffic jam, massive air pollution also caused by the individual traffic. So this is where we support, and we will provide more than 200 million euro as a reduced interest loan, a fair loan, so to speak, to build, together with our Indonesian partners, a modern railway system. Also, there are other examples in terms of circular economy and at least high standard landfills, also in East Java, for instance, in Malang, and in Sidoarjo, which is next to Surabaya, actually. Next. Yeah, now I come to the main sector of my presentation, as I said before. So there cannot be any forest protection without, we have talked with our Indonesian partners a lot about that topic, cannot be forest protection without the local people, without also providing livelihoods for the Indonesia people who live in or near the forest, actually on the forest edge. So we have 2 partners, mainly the KLHK, but also the Indonesian Ministry of Agriculture for sustainable value chains. So once more, we also care about biodiversity. We have some pilot projects. Some are also financed by the German Ministry of Environmental Protection. And as you know, many animals in Indonesia are sort of like signature animals which are known throughout the world, like the Sumatra rhino, Sumatra tiger, the orangutan. Yet these animals continue to be hunted and parts of them exported as like illegal trade. So we are really supporting Indonesia to stop this really unholy trade of animal parts. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yeah, our flagship project over a long time in the environment and forest sector is Falkland, is still going on, and also the long-time director, Pak Georg, is here, my friend from before in Jakarta. He would probably tell you much more about this program. However, let me tell you, it really has also achieved some landmark results, such as maintaining the forest cover, completely maintaining it of the conservation zone forest, Hutan Konservasi, and the conservation core zones. And even this conservation is hard because there's a lot of encroachment in Indonesia, you know that, and forest cover in conservation zones is of course already high. So the forest cover can hardly be increased in such regions. So to maintain it is already a huge success. And we believe that we've also a little bit contributed indirectly to the national administration in Indonesia, like Hutan Adat, Hutan Masyarakat, or Hutan Desa, which gives so much more opportunities for the local people to have ownership rights to the forests, or at least utilization rights, which is another incentive to preserve the forest. Yes. Yeah, so just a part, I have almost ended my presentation. This is supposed to be a bit lively. This is the work we do. This is my, so to speak, big bosses. This is the one with the green skirt is our parliamentary secretary, Mrs. Kofler, so she's a member of parliament, state secretary level, that would be vice minister level, and she also visited Indonesia, Sulawesi, our Falkland project, just last year. She wanted to also gain some first-hand impression how the smallhold farmers of cacao or coffee, the ones who do intercropping in the forest, how they fared with the project. And yeah, then last slide, I suppose, or last real slide. And yeah, I mean, you're all familiar with that. That's probably more targeted about to like a German or European audience. It's a picture from the new intervention area of Falkland on Papua. You can see the enormous biodiversity, the variety of the Indonesian wildlife, such like a kangaroo, which people would probably not expect to be in Indonesia. So this is also part of our Falkland program, and we are the only bilateral donor who works, bilateral means G2G, Germany, who works with Indonesia and Papua for forest protection. So this is actually a huge sign also of trust from the Indonesian side. So thank you very much. Terima kasih. I would like to close with this highlight, and maybe later you have some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tanto, for your presentation regarding the updates and also status of the support that has been provided by German government through BMZ to Indonesia. I believe some of you or all of you have already had questions, whether you're here now with us in the room or you're in the live stream or in the Zoom meeting room. Once again, I would like to remind you, if you want to ask question, please just scan this barcode here and then type in your questions, and then we will collect your questions and they will be asked at the end of the session. Okay, without further ado, I would like to invite to the stage now the Ambassador of Indonesia to the Federal Republic of Germany, His Excellency Arif Hafaz Ogroseno, to deliver the keynote speech in the ministerial talk.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the time. It's very difficult to speak on issues that have been mentioned before, especially oleh Ibu Laksmi. But this is my presentation based on my engagement with different people here in Germany, in Europe, and different conferences that I've been. And also based on some of the positions that have already been given by different ministers, especially Minister of Environment, Ibu Siti, and also Minister of Finance, Ibu Sri Mulyani. When we talk about climate change, I think we have to go to the bottom of it, that the Earth is already destroyed. Whether you can come up with beautiful pages of environment presentations, the environment in the Earth is just really bad shape. Okay, Indonesia is not excluded; we are impacted as well. And this is just an example of the impact of climate change in Indonesia, other than droughts, heat, landslide, flooding. This is the rising of sea level. Although the rising of sea level in Indonesia today, we can say that we are quite, quote unquote, lucky, because it happens in the northern part of Java Island, and it means we don't have neighbors. Imagine if the rising of sea level happens in the island of Batam. We go back 500 meters. Does that mean Singapore has more water than us? Or if the rising sea level happens in the east coast of Sumatra, does that mean Malaysia has more territorial water than us because our coast goes back? And if the rising sea level happens in the southern part of Java, does that mean Australia has more territory than Indonesia because our coast moved back? And if the rising sea level happens in the islands of Natuna, does that mean China has more water than us? Very interestingly, unfortunately, we have not had any national discussion on the legal status of Indonesian boundaries or claim at sea when the rising sea level creates receding coastline in Indonesia. So that's just one. Now, this is the number that Minister of Finance, Ibu Sri Mulyani, mentioned in many meetings. In order for Indonesia to rectify, or maybe not rectify, to adapt ourselves with the climate change through mitigation and adaptation, we need $281 billion until 2030. Okay? Or more or less 3,500 trillion. This is depends on the course value. Sometimes 3,500, sometimes 4,000. The question is, do we have the money? Do we as a nation, does Indonesian government has the money to address climate change impact to Indonesia? Answer is no. We don't have money, okay? And I will explain later that no one is going to come and save us. Not Germany, Pak David, not the EU, not the Americans, not the Chinese, no one comes, okay? You can just stop the conference, go home and weep and cry. No one is coming to help, okay? So we can only have 15%. Depends again on the budget, sometimes 15%, sometimes 18%. But this is a lot of money, guys. Okay? You just don't have it. All right? So how to get the rest of this? Ibu Laxmi Bami mentioned about Paris Agreement. But Paris Agreement only talk about developing country and LDC. Are we developing country, Indonesia? We are not developing country. We are upper middle income country. This is the World Bank data. Don't get confused, yeah. We are rich people, yeah. That's why no one comes and help us. We have few or no GSP. For instance, if we want to sell our tuna from the Philippines, we are slammed with tariff by EU 20%. But the Philippines, because they are still developing country, they got the tariff 0%. If we are selling our dear coffee, that's 8% tariff. If we are selling our moringa leaf, 15%. We are selling our all agri product in the EU between 6 to 7%. Philippines, 0%. Sri Lanka, 0%. Bangladesh, 0%. We are slammed because we are not developing country anymore. And we are G20 and we are applying for OECD. I mean, if you want to be part of OECD, why do you need the help? You are rich guys, okay? Whether we are trapped or not trapped in middle income country, we are still not a developing country. So no one is going to give us the money, okay? You can go home and cry. Indonesia? No, we are not included in this thing, okay? But we have a new strategy. Already mentioned part by Ibu Dirjen. One is climate budget tagging. You know what is this? It means the Minister of Finance put or tag some climate initiative as KPI in different ministries and calculate that as climate budget tagging. Public funding instruments, we have new instruments under the Office of Bapenas and the Office of the Minister of Finance. We organize ourselves in terms of getting funding from the market. I was involved in the launching of Green Bond in Frankfurt a couple of years ago, and Green Sukuk in the Frankfurt as well. We had just launched Samurai Bond in Tokyo. We have a number of other initiatives in the pipeline. So that's one of the elements in the public funding instruments. We have multilateral funding sources, of course, different elements from the World Bank, from GAF, but of course this is not grant, yeah? All loan. Number one coming from loan, number two coming from loan, number three coming from loan. Hey, you're not developing country, you know, nobody gonna give you money. Blended finance is another thing. It means the financing from private sector, multilateral donor, government put together. But again, it's not a grant, it's a loan. Okay, the interest can vary, maybe 1%, but not the market interest, but it's not grant. David mentioned about energy transition, JETP, $70 billion. It's not a grant, it's a loan. Okay, because Germany also want to get some money from us as well. Yeah? Germany get loan from someone, they give loan to us. You know, everybody make money out of climate business. Carbon market is the future, I think, but the challenge, I think, is the pricing. The slide from Ibu Dirjen mentioned a couple of payment, but if you look at the number, it's only $5 per ton. If I may suggest, Ibu Dirjen, maybe $15 per ton. The reasoning is simple, because the technology of CSS that is used in the United States, in Japan and Korea, and will be used in Europe, the cost will be between $15 up to $120. So if we can do $15, Ibu, we can make a lot of money. The last part, okay, I think the world is having a lot of problem already, okay? You have war in Ukraine, you have $50 billion coming from the West to Ukraine in just less than 2 years. $100 billion for the environment never comes up because they are not going to pay, okay? You can have a very beautiful question whether a country should be equally responsible. You get some philosophical question, but at the end of the day, it's about numbers, it's about finance, it's about the fact that the developed country is not going to pay. I was in a very interesting session in New York last year, Ocean Panel, and we talked about financing of coastal community in the global south. One prime minister in the table, I don't want to mention the country, but he lives in London, so London can be in the US. London mystery or something, okay? You can Google, London is not only in that country but other places. He said specifically, we are not going to pay. We do not have the money. You cannot bring everything to develop a country to put the price tag. We don't have money. That's the reality of life, guys. So we can continue discussion today. You can just stop and go home and cry. So Thank you very much. I hope I'm not giving you a very gloomy view, but this is what it is. Okay, I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to cover it up. I'm not going to do any, fancy feeling, but we have to do it ourselves. Nobody is coming to help us. Transfer cooperation, you can go home. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pak Hafaz, you could stay here and be seated. And I would like to also invite Ibu Laksmi and Dr. Davidanto to come to the stage again to have a seat.